Welcome to another episode of PodJunction Podcast, a show for podcasters who want to use their podcast to grow their business. I'm your host, Sadaf Beynon, and today I'm joined by Eagan Heath, who is the host of What's Working in eCommerce podcast. Eagan, it's great to have you on PodJunction. How are you today?
Good. Thanks, Sadaf. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Our pleasure. All right. So, Eagan, let's just jump in. Your podcast is called What's Working in eCommerce podcast. So tell us how that journey began. Just go for it.
Yeah, I've been running an agency now. This is my 8th year, and we had kind of started in local SEO and Google Ads and things like that. And at some point kind of moved into the e-commerce piece as well. So we're running, paid search, paid social for e-commerce clients and got into email marketing and automation. And I just saw what, podcasting had done for other people in the space. Sometimes they had, private membership groups. Sometimes they had agencies. And I just sort of saw they were nice and far along where they were, well past that 100 episode mark, if not multi-hundred episode. And it was clear that they were getting great lead flow from it. And I realized to really get where I want to be, it's going to take 3 years was kind of my expectation. And I was just like, I don't want another 3 years to elapse and I don't have one. Like I want to have some platform where I'm just regularly creating content, getting out there, building that trust. I think particularly with video, it's just so powerful. If people see you, they kind of get this, a negative way to say it is, parasocial. It's not necessarily a bad word, but it's just like people feel like they know you, right? And so if they can see your content and see that you're trustworthy, you're authoritative, et cetera, you're providing them reciprocity or you're giving them something, it just built so much trust. So I knew I wanted to kind of start that flywheel. So really started as we pivoted. So we had been Get Found Madison. We're in Madison, Wisconsin, outside of Chicago in the US. And then we were like, okay, let's kind of pivot. Let's be an e-commerce agency. And so we became Caravan Digital with that. Okay. And so it's almost kind of part of the rebrand, part of the niching down of let's make sure we've got a show that's all about e-commerce. And so that was kind of the journey there. I took on a business partner this year and we've rebranded yet again. So we're Asymmetric Marketing now. So we're kind of in the process of rebranding the podcast and things like that. But it's cool. As soon as one thing that was nice is as soon as I started up, we were getting all kinds of pitches of people wanting to be on it. So one thing that has not been the hard part is getting guests of people want to talk about this stuff. And so that's been really nice.
That's really interesting. So was it just from having the podcast and people hearing it and being like, oh yeah, I want to be a part of this? Or was it people that you knew that, how did you source those people? Well, I know they came to you, but what was it that drew them to you, I guess is a better question.
Yeah. And I think there's this whole thing of, niching in the agency world of how do we, figure out, we can do local business lead gen, we can do e-commerce, maybe even niche within e-commerce or niche within local businesses. And same idea with your content creation of how niche is your podcast, who do you serve and how do you really force yourself to make it more narrow so it's not just for everybody. Yeah. And I think the fact that it was e-commerce specific helped. There's this whole industry of people that do podcast outreach. And so they can help get you on podcasts and basically these other agency owners, digital marketers, e-commerce marketers, brand owners, they would have people where it's kind of part of their PR and their marketing efforts to get on other people's shows. And so they are paying someone professionally to just do outreach and get them on podcasts. And so I think that in between, like those brokers really make it happen. Yeah. And it's been a great source. Oftentimes we're having to say no to people of just, hey, we're too far behind. We got to edit our episodes and get them out. Yeah. Or just, hey, this isn't a great fit. We're really looking for e-commerce specific.
Yeah. So do you do pre-calls? How do you figure out whether those people are a fit? Is it just from the application or do you do something beyond that?
Yeah. And I should say, I still consider us early in the process. So, we've got more than 100 episodes recorded. We are yet to get all of them live. We're in the 80s or 90s as we speak now. So we're just trying to get those scheduled and out basically has really been the challenge. That's kind of been the bottleneck, not so much having people on there. So in terms of our process, it really is kind of discussion via email. I now have an assistant, Miriam, who's helping me with that piece. And we're kind of working on the criteria there. It's often just email discussion. Yeah. If I have any advice for these people who are doing the pitches, you really got to make it shorter. Maybe it's just me. I'm literally an ADHD entrepreneur. So it's like, you got to get to the point with me. And people send me these novels that are multi-paragraphs long. And if it seems like, okay, they'll have a couple things in bold, so-and-so's a CEO, they did an e-commerce launch, yada, yada. I'm just like, give me 3 to 5 bullet points on what they're going to talk about, And sometimes even with that instruction, the people pitching still don't do it. If they come back with another novel, and it's just like, I don't, I think, my assistant Miriam, I think, could do that. But it's like, if you're doing any kind of cold outreach, whether it's for clients or for, getting on podcasts or podcast guests or anything, I think you really got to be concise and get to the point. I'm biased on that, or I'm just like, I don't read long emails. If my team sends me long emails, I'm like, you got to make it shorter. I'm busy. So it's a weird tangent on that, but it's just like, that's the biggest one is, do they actually have something specific to say about e-commerce? Because that's really the topic. That's the top, that's the focus of the show. And then can you tell me, what is a topic we can talk about? If we don't have to just stick with that topic, but I have to get a sense of, you've got some expertise and you've got something to share with the audience. So we're trying to suss that out through email. I'm sure if you talk with me, by episode 200, we'll have a better process on that.
Yeah. Can I just ask, like, as you've started your podcast and you've been on this journey, what have you found to be like the most biggest hurdles or challenges that you have come across or have had to deal with?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people sort of anticipate it's the finding guests, and that's not the hard part at all.
Yeah,
I would say for me, it's really been the production piece of, I'm great. I can show up and riff with people and, create an episode and ask them questions and learn more and, make connections. That's kind of the part that, at least with my skills or just how I am, like that's the part I'm good at. And when it was just me, or when I was trying to get new assistants on, it was really the editing and the production piece of, we got to the point where I'm sure we were more than 50 episodes behind. And it was almost absurd, where I guess we're kind of reaching out, hey, when's my episode coming out? And we kind of had to say, hey, stop asking. Like, I'm running an agency and I'm doing the best I can here. And I interestingly, I mentioned this in my email. So I would send out to my list when we have a new episode come out, and I would say, hey, sorry, it's been a while. Like, I'm busy running an agency, and we kind of got to be a mini media company here too. Yeah. And someone who had been on the podcast said, hey, here's my assistant. You should talk with her. She's great. She helps me on my podcast. And that was really the game changer for us. So I went through, I think we had 2 other VA companies before that, and just did not work out.
Okay.
It really is this series of steps of, can we edit the episode? Can we create show notes and timestamps and, things to promote it? And so between my now 3rd assistant, Miriam, who had already had experience doing podcast production promotion, and AI tools, we've really sped that process up. But boy, it sure took a long time. And so we got to the point with her where we were cranking on an episode or 2 a week could come out, versus I'm just struggling to find time to get 1 out a month. So for me, that was really the hard part of, I can show up on the mic, I can talk, we can do the episode, but I really needed other who's to do the hows of, how do we chop this up? How do we edit it? And how do we promote it?
Yeah. So Miriam, if I remember from our conversation before in our pre-call, she works remotely from where you're at, right?
Yeah, she's in Nairobi, Kenya, actually.
Right,
yep.
yeah.
And she was helping someone else in the UK with the podcast. And she was kind of working on, setting up her own agency doing this piece. So I think you've got to really find somebody like that who loves this piece. Her thing was even her focus was, let's, she really wanted to focus on kind of the promotion of it, of, okay, we're putting it out on social media, we're writing the email marketing for it, we're, talking about it and getting it out there and letting the guests know that their episode is live. That's all great. But I said, I need someone to edit it, and I don't want to coordinate with anybody else. Like, I want a one-stop shop. Let's get you the tools you need. She didn't have video. So I should say we're on YouTube and we do the audio podcast. And the YouTube views are where most of them are. Of all the other podcast audio platforms combined, YouTube is, probably 10x of those basically. So it's a much bigger hurdle to do video episodes because of all the editing and so on required, but it's really been, I think it's been worth it for us in my experience, for additional views, additional, basically people seeing us and getting exposed to it. So what we ended up doing was using a combination of Riverside and Descript.io. So basically the AI portions or the AI tools where, okay, we're not going to be using Premiere or what have you. We don't need to use these high-end video editing tools. It's probably overkill for what we're doing, but we need some way to just chop out little parts and do things. And so doing a basic version of that and getting her up to speed on that piece, that was huge. So it's sort of I'm of 2 minds about these things, where it's just like, hire people who already know how to do what you do. Yeah, I mentioned Who
Mm.
Not How. That's a Dan Sullivan book, and I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of Dan Sullivan and Strategic Coach. And so I believe in Who Not How, but sometimes when you're small, you got to say, hey, can you help me with this too, until we get somebody to do that part. And in this case, it worked. We didn't need anything so sophisticated with the editing that we needed a dedicated video editor and then a promoter. I was like, let's just combine it all into one.
Yeah.
I could see how if you're bigger, you have more budget, whatever, you could make those separate jobs.
Mm-hmm. So were you always audio video? Did you start like that?
We did do that from the top. And I should say, we started on Zoom, and you can watch the very first episode with my client, Tim, from the Healthy Place. He's like a vitamin and supplement company. And it's nice and rough. One thing on YouTube or on Zoom is, I don't know if it's still in the case, but yeah, 720 pixels, 720p was the max. And just when we finally made that switch and I invested in Riverside or said, okay, let's get a dedicated tool for this, quality jumped up a lot. Zoom is set up for video conferencing, real-time stuff where it's not recorded for all posterity. It's not for content creation. And doing Riverside was a big step up, and whatever your tool is. But the other thing that Riverside does is, if there's a little cut in the connection or someone's Wi-Fi or internet isn't good, you just kind of lose them, and that part gets cut out in Zoom. Riverside has this thing where it's recording locally asynchronously, and then it uploads it to the cloud. Yeah. And so even if you're like not quite hearing people during it, because sometimes I'm talking to people in other countries or what have you, the Riverside quality was much higher. So yeah, we did video from the beginning, and pretty soon it was clear that Zoom alone was not going to cut it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's cool. You were talking about Miriam. It's from your journey, it's quite clear that having that team around you and helping you support that process, because you've got your agency to run at the same time, made a huge difference for you. So, and you also mentioned there was two other agencies that you kind of considered. And so what was it about them that that wasn't working for you, I guess?
Yeah. I almost need a beer to even discuss those ones because they were so upsetting. It was like they were these virtual assistant companies in the Philippines, kind of dedicated to it. But it's all, again, kind of general purpose. Okay, we can get these people trained and going on whatever. They didn't necessarily have experience in podcasting specifically. And then there's sort of, I don't know what you'd say, Western US, Europe. There's sort of there's sort of like cultural literacy and context within our countries and languages, culture, right? That can be important in these things. Yeah. So I think there was some of that. So there was like a skills gap. There was also even just how to be like, another idea from Dan Sullivan, the strategic coach, is like the self-managing company. Yeah. Is like, I want to tell people what to do, and then I want them to go do it. I don't want to manage anybody. And it really needed managing, lots of back and forth. And so each episode ended up being, I forget what it was, but it was on the order of $200, $300. We probably even started at $500 to $600 an episode they were painstakingly going through each video and like adding in lower thirds and little images and stuff like that, and getting things wrong and misspelling things and so on and so on. And it was just painful, where I could hop on and do we do a call like this, and it's a 20-minute interview, and it becomes this multi-hour ordeal over the course of weeks. I know I sound ridiculous right now, but it's like, I think you can underestimate how much can go into all that. Yeah. And so I really wanted someone where it's like the quality's good enough and I can just trust them to do it and put them out. And so we got to a point, at least with Miriam, where she kind of knows when it's good enough and she can put it out. If I have to watch every single one and give feedback and then watch again to make sure it was fixed. So we had iterations where, we were going back and forth 3 to 5 times on an episode. No wonder they weren't coming out every week. Right. And to finally get the quality up, it took a while. It didn't, we didn't start there with Miriam, but we got to the point where I was like, just publish these things. Like, it's not, this isn't Netflix. It's like, this is a business podcast. It's very specific. You have to have this is 80% good enough. It's good enough to go out the door. If we try to make everything perfect, it's I don't know.
Not going to get out the door.
Yeah. And maybe Matt would disagree with that. I'd be curious of how much did you invest in quality? But I think at some point you have diminishing returns, and you kind of need to say it's good enough. Let's get it out the door, because you never even know which one's going to hit either. It's like you could spend all this time on these episodes, and your first 100 episodes, like many of them, you're not getting many views or listens. It's some have breakouts, some are successful, but many of them it's in the the low number of views or a few dozen views. And so why are you killing yourself on that?
Yeah. And I think there's something to be said for the authenticity side of things too, right? Like, you want to keep it real. You don't want it to be super polished and something that you can't live up to in each episode. Yeah.
Yeah. If you make it this whole ordeal, and it's going to take you 12 to 24 hours of actual person hours to get an episode out, I think, I think you get going, but have a reasonable bar, realize that we're not going to do This American Life quality right out of the gates, right?
Yeah.
And then you iterate over time. So I think I'm still very much in that process. I don't pretend to be a professional, and I'm just roughly 100 episodes in. This is where I'm at, and hopefully continuing on that trajectory.
No, that's cool. Okay, so question then is, how do you use your podcast to help grow your agency?
Yeah, so this is kind of been a big question. And now that I have a business partner, he's kind of asking, hey, is this doing business? Is this worth our time, et cetera, et cetera? It's like that piece. And I think I had good expectation going in terms of, again, like, I'm almost not even evaluating that until the 3-year mark is kind of my thought, or even let's get a few hundred episodes out. So I guess that would be, if we could get to roughly one a week, when we hit the 150 mark, maybe I'll look harder at that. But anyway, to answer your question, I see it as a way to build referral partnerships. So when we were Get Found Madison here in in the state of Wisconsin, in the US, it's like I built an SEO company by building referral partnerships with web design companies. Okay. And so their clients would say, hey, we're not on page 1 of Google. And they would say, go talk to Eagan and his team, basically. So I saw how that worked, and that made sense to me. That was tangible to me. If I'm going to local networking events, I'm there in person. How do I reproduce this online if we're going national or international, right? And so it made sense to me so we talk to quote unquote competitors that also run Google ads, meta ads, et cetera. Yeah. But we learn from them and we collaborate, and then we could potentially build referral partnerships. And so we have gotten referrals through the show that way. So I think of it that way. It's a way to keep current on what's going on. One, it's a way to build your network and get out there. And then also you're doing obviously the whole piece we talked about on content marketing, if you're building trust. So then the question is, okay, but then do you get clients through it? And the answer to that is yes as well. So we've had people reach out, and it's not even they're subscribed to the show and they listen every week. It's they saw a specific episode and reached out. So it was a topic they cared about. They were really interested. They liked what we said on Google Shopping. And then we talked and did an audit and so on. So projects and client work comes out of it. The other one I like to mention is I had somebody who was local. So they were e-commerce, but they were in our city or nearby, and they drove up and we met at a coffee shop to kind of talk through and do the sales process. And he sat down for coffee, and this prospect said, I'm already sold on you. I just binge listened to all your episodes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
that's a nice place to start.
Yeah. And they became a client. So that's one you don't even think about, where you're like, you're going, you're grinding. You're getting 12 views and listens on some of these things. And you're like, well, why bother? Why do it? But you're thinking, for me, I was thinking we evaluated 3 years. We evaluated, 150 episodes. Yeah. And it's just like, your whole catalog is out there and people can go back and binge it. And it's interesting that he said that exactly. And that was such a differentiator. He was just like, obviously this guy's the authority. We're going to work with them. Yeah. And it's one thing that's interesting about that is most of the episodes are me interviewing other experts, other people. Yeah. So every night I'll have my team on, we'll talk through the channel they're working on or a case study. But most of the episodes are not even featuring us and our work and what we're doing. It's just like, it's just this level of authority. Oh, he's got the show on it. He must be the guy to hire. So that was powerful.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I think you have to keep your the content that you're putting out or that you're recording is actually hitting home with the people you want to reach out to. And that shows that with with the story that you've shared, that, even though they haven't been following all your episodes, it's one that kind of just hit it off, and they've been able to go back and binge everything else. So yeah, I guess maintaining the integrity of what your podcast is about is pretty huge, isn't it?
Yeah. And some of those pitches we get from the podcast pitcher people, like, it's like many of them are like, so-and-so is an experienced business leader in manufacturing. And it's like, you kind of like, what do they do? Okay. Do they do e-commerce? like, so we'll talk about general entrepreneurship and marketing and business stuff sometimes, but oftentimes, yeah, we have to say no, where it's just like, hey, this is an e-commerce show. This isn't just a chance for you to come on and talk about your stuff or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. And I also just, you can put so much time into a blog post, into a podcast, into a video, into a webinar, whatever it is. And this consistency of let's do many things, let's get dozens of episodes and then more out there. You really never know. The ones you spend the most time on, it's total flub. No one cares.
Yeah.
And ones that you just kind of cranked out and didn't spend that much time on will just hit. And when you look at the view counts, when you look at the listen counts, they will eclipse everything else combined. It's just like, it's that power law distribution that you find throughout the natural world and the business world of a few of them are going to be more than all the rest combined. And you don't know which episode that is. So that's another reason to just keep going and keep putting stuff out there.
Do you get any kind of feedback from your listeners? Do you have a process where you invite that information in, or do you go looking? Yeah. How do you do that?
That's a great question. I think we could do a lot more on that. So you get me thinking. When I was Caravan Digital, so the second of the 3 agency brands I've had here, I would send each one out through ConvertKit. So we'd get an email out, people would see those, and I would get some responses on great episode, love this, or so on and so on. Somebody who was a client. So it's interesting. So I'll have on my email list, it's like, we've got clients, we've got prospects and leads, we've got previous podcast guests, and so you can segment them, but I would send it to everybody, like, here's a newsletter, here's the latest episode. And somebody who was a client gave me good feedback and said, you're doing these, in some cases, 25, 30-minute or more interviews, and I'm clicking and I'm watching on YouTube. And he's like, for me, I'd rather, I might listen to a 30 or 45-minute interview, but it's strange to sit and watch a 45-minute YouTube video. So that was good feedback. So at some point, I think I may have maybe early on, we were just even sharing out the YouTube link, thinking video's better than everything.
Yeah.
And from that feedback, we realized, let's include the links to, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, back then Stitcher. And so people could click and listen. And then I would look at the analytics on ConvertKit or in the email tool and just see what links are people clicking. And people clicked all of them. It was like, people really had different formats. And then from there, we would chop up the show. So on the YouTube version, there'd be part 1 and part 2.
Yeah. So
they would be more in the 10 to 20 minute range at least. And that's even long for a YouTube video. So that was one piece of feedback where it was kind of format style. I think every now and then too, I want to stop and I want to get advice from other podcasters like Matthew or whoever of, what did they see working? What do I need to change there? Obviously, what listeners and viewers think is important, but there's probably people that, even though each show is different, each audience is different, there's probably best practices that I could speed up. So you've got me thinking on that. There's probably more we could do there. And there's comments and things on YouTube as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of them?
We, just on some of the, when those episodes hit, people will say, and so that's kind of part of the engagement of this one got a lot of views. So for us, Google Shopping is just a hot topic of there's so much out there about Facebook and Instagram ads and Meta ads and so on. And people are really kind of starved for content about Google Shopping specifically, this particular, ad placement for e-commerce. And so I learned from that, and we went back and had more episodes about that. I actually created a course based on that. And, so that kind of feedback I certainly take, and I say, okay, this is a hot spot. We need more topics about this, and let's create other content, other even info products about that.
That's cool. Eagan, I'm going to cut this part out, but I don't know what else. I can't remember from my notes what I had written down, the whole monetization part of things, but I don't what's the best way to ask that question? Because you said you didn't actually, what was your model like?
Yeah. For us,
so
it really,
experiment with it.
We really have not. I don't see it as something I would ever charge for.
Okay.
So but yeah.
Do you want to, is there something for us to talk about if I was to ask something around that? Or is there something else another angle about the whole podcasting thing that you'd want me to ask about? I'm sorry, I should have been.
No, it's fine.
I had notes, but I think I just kind of went off off script right from the beginning. So now I'm all like twisted around.
No, that's great. I think it might be worth asking me and other people any unexpected benefits
Okay.
of things, how's it going? Like, why do you continue after you've started, and
Okay.
I think that could be part of it.
Okay, cool. Let me start that again then.
And there could, sorry, other
No,
ideas.
go on.
There could be also, what have you learned in the process that you would do differently if you were starting again, or,
Yeah.
how have you evolved the show
Yeah.
over time? Something like that. I think those are good ones.
Thank you so much, Eagan. I really appreciate this.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Eagan, would you be able to share with us any unexpected benefits from when you first started and where you're at now? How have you had any benefits that have come out of the podcast that you didn't expect when you first started?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, I really do enjoy it. Is the plain and simple of it, or it's like we can talk the monetization. We can talk about, does this get us referrals? Does this get us leads? Does it maybe even get us people who could buy our courses? In some cases, we're developing courses out of some of the content or the topics that are hot topics like Google Shopping and things like that. But for me, it's just like many of us in this field work all day on our computers, maybe by ourselves, maybe we're on Zoom. My business partner and I now have an office that we share, so we see each other in person there sometimes. But it's like, it can be so isolating, all the work we do. And so to get together with other people we've never met before and like get to know them and talk, to me, it fills me up, it lights me up. So it's like, I'm never going to stop. Is it always going to be what's working in e-commerce? I'm always thinking of what are other shows I could be doing. And I've mentioned I've followed the leader on even Dan Sullivan from Strategic Coach. I think he's got 8 or 12 podcasts, business podcasts. Wow. Many of them are often in the top ones on Apple Business Podcasts or on iTunes. So he's really found it where this is his sweet spot. He can kind of show up. He's got other people doing the production and editing and publication. He can kind of show up and riff and be spontaneous. Yeah. And so for me, it's just like, it's a way to meet new people. It's a way to learn new things. It's a way to like get out of the weeds on any client work we're doing or anything I'm doing for our marketing or our business development. So for that, I've kind of said as we went, like, okay, this is going so-so, or like, okay, we've put quite a few episodes out and invested a lot in this, frankly. What's the ROI? I think there is that perspective, but it's also just like, I'm growing my network. I'm learning things. I'm meeting people. I'm doing something novel in the middle of the day that's different than the other things. So for that reason, it's like, I'm always going to have a podcast. So that's it. It's just, I really enjoy it.
Yeah. So that's what keeps you going.
I think so. Yeah. And I'm always, I'm not even necessarily tied to the show. I think it's what's working in e-commerce will continue because we serve e-commerce clients at Asymmetric Marketing. And now I've got with Mark and my business partner, it's like now we do Amazon. So we've had all these people that were Amazon experts. We always kind of stayed out of Amazon. We did, direct to consumer, helping market through the website directly. And now it's like, okay, we've got this other service. I can be having my business partner, Mark, come on and do more with that. Yeah. But it's also like, we do have clients where there's local service businesses. We do lead generation for them. What's the podcast for that? We've worked with people in senior living, assisted living. And I'm just like, maybe we have a special podcast where it's 12 episodes or something, but it's here's SEO for senior living. Here's Google ads for senior living. Here's how you do marketing strategy for senior living. Yeah. Just have it out there, right? So when someone searches and they find it, I think Google's going to be doing more and more, in terms of, often you see YouTube results, right? On the Google result page. Yeah. I think we're going to see more and more podcasts there as well.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So how would you say your podcast has evolved overall since when you started and where you're at now? I mean, it's going to always evolve. I get that. But how has it evolved for you?
Yeah, I think it's a constant iteration of just how do we do this a little better, right? And one of the things is, and there's a term for this in podcasting, but I don't know it, is even just skip right to the point of like, have a little teaser at the front. So the first thing people hear or the first thing that people see is somebody like just giving a gold nugget and then like drawing them in. And I think it's particularly important on YouTube. If it's depressing when you watch your YouTube analytics or anything, you can actually see the drop off rate. And one is just people are, they're kind of clicking around. They see a video. If you go right to your intro and blah, 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 here's your music and here's your, here's the animations and stuff. I think you've got to draw them in more. So that's one where it's like, give someone a hook. That's like just a gold gem right from the episode, right at the top, and get them excited. I think there's room also for afterward recording the intro again. I haven't gotten good at this yet, where I'm not doing it standard every time, but I think if we were to really professionalize this and do it better, is we kind of have our standard intro, standard outro, etc. But I think the best podcasts I listen to, I really enjoy, like Tropical MBA podcast, for example. I think they go back and say, here's what we talk about, and you're going to enjoy this and that, where you're just teasing it. It's like good copywriting. It's like the headline matters, the name of the episode matters, but also whatever you're saying in those first few ones, it's like this whole thing in copywriting. It's the headline matters as much as the rest of your article, your ad, or whatever it is. Yeah. So it's like really nail that first piece and get better and better at trying to retain people like that. So I think that would be the next step for us too.
Yeah. At the moment, do you just record all the way through? So you go from the intro straight, or do you put that in later? How do you do it?
And that's just kind of maybe part of my laziness of there's so many ways to make it better. I'm sure people would watch it and see it right away. Hey, fix this, fix that, or an experienced podcaster like Matt would know exactly what to change. I think some of it is just that diminishing returns thing of, okay, how much time do we put into this? But at some point, hey, Miriam, let's make this standard, or have your assistant just say, we do it this way every time. Let's make sure we're sitting down and spending the time on that. So you had asked about the pre-meeting call. I think a pre-meeting call is a great idea. For me, I'm just like, let's do that kind of before we record. And so we do that. I try to do the intro at the time. I often just totally butcher people's names and have to do that multiple times. So that's a major source of me having to redo the intros. And so I'm mostly recording them all in one go, but I think there's value in, like I said, it's spontaneous. We don't know what people are going to say. We don't want it to be too scripted. Part of the reason I think people like podcasts is it's like overhearing a conversation. It's a little more organic, but then you go back and say, okay, here's the structure. Here's kind of the stuff we talked about, and just tease each of those things, like use good marketing curiosity. So I think there's value in going back and redoing the intro. I'm selling myself on this as I think about it.
As you're talking. We tried for a while actually to do a hook at the beginning of the took a snippet of the conversation and put it in the front, and then had another intro to go after that. We have abandoned that now, but
Yeah. Was it in the numbers you kind of saw, hey, it's not making a difference, it was too much work? What do you think?
It was a mixture of both, actually. Either that or our hooks just weren't strong enough. So there's that, but again, I guess that would come back down to work that it took to find that snippet and add it.
Yeah. I could be wrong on this, but I think that there's this whole thing about the audio analytics are built on this old technology of RSS feeds, which used to be how people would get, subscribe to blogs and things like that. And so because of the architecture of it, the analytics aren't very good with your audio podcast. They're just not. It's like how many downloads, how many subscribers you can you get a few, but it's nothing like what you might ever see in Google Analytics or something like that for a website. It's just kind of in the dark ages. I think Spotify's are a little better. But on YouTube, you can really see where people drop off, and that's probably enough information. If it's a little different, it's video, the expectations are different. But I think the analytics, from what I've seen, are not robust enough to even give you that sort of info. What is nice is with the audio ones, you can always go back. You've got a host where you're uploading the episodes. You can change one. If you wanted to test a new hook on an old episode, you always could, right?
It's
YouTube has this thing where a video is uploaded, it's in there, and it's never changing. It's like you want to upload a different video or change it somehow past a certain point. Like there's a little bit in the YouTube editor, but anything significant, I feel like, is basically a new video to them, and there's not a lot of tweaking to old episodes. So I think the audio format gives you more flexibility to change after the fact and test, but your analytics also aren't very good to tell you, are people dropping off after 10 seconds? If I'm wrong, I would love for someone to set me right on that.
Yeah, no, I as far as I know, we use Captivate. Are you familiar with that?
Okay. I don't know this one, no, and I probably should.
Yeah, but it doesn't give that much information. I mean, it's good, but it doesn't give as much information as we would like, probably.
Okay, I'll check that out. I think it is related to this thing of just, it's kind of built on old infrastructure. And so the old rails of RSS just don't give us very good analytics. So it's
Mm.
unfortunate, but we're also, you get what you get, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Eagan, if you were to start again, how would you do your podcast differently?
I think the main thing is using the power of who, not how,
Mm.
of do the parts you love, maybe edit your own episode once, but there's no reason that I should have been editing those after that. Like, it was obvious that that was the bottleneck. At some point, Sadaf, I was like, I was more than a year behind. If someone had been on the show
Yeah.
and the episode wasn't out, and I'm sure they'd just written it off. So in that case, in terms of building the relationship and building the rapport and growing the network that way, it was probably worse to have gotten their hopes up and then they gave up on me, and then they were surprised when the episode finally came out.
Yeah.
So I think getting that process down of we want to get a reasonable turnaround time, and guests would be like, all right, we're ready to talk about Black Friday, Cyber Monday,
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this might come out this,
Next year.
this is going to be a while, and that's even just an estimate. And so get it quick, understand what's involved, and then pull in helpers for the pieces that you don't need to be doing, because especially if you're an agency owner or something, there's better uses of your time.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you do social media for yours?
Yeah, so that's a piece where Miriam, my assistant, really excels, and that's kind of what she'd reach out to me about. And so Riverside can kind of chop up and give you little shorts. I think that's a good way to tease it. Of you even just you're asking me a question. If I can hopefully give a soundbite answer that's under 60 seconds, it's like put that Instagram story style at least on LinkedIn. When we started doing YouTube Shorts, our views shot through the roof of just that format. And that was instructive for me. I think we could do a lot more in terms of let's repurpose those. Let's get those on TikTok. Let's get those on Instagram stories. Am I there yet? We're not there yet, but that'll be pretty easy for Miriam once we get a process. But just that piece of our analytics just went like this, when we're not asking someone to sit and watch a 20-minute YouTube video versus here's the point on this particular topic, and maybe that can draw them in. So I think there is value in that. Still experimenting with the best way to do it. I even like to post often, when I have a great conversation with someone, I like to post online about it and even just say the summary. So for me, I'm doing B2B, LinkedIn is big. And so if I remember, and again, other people can be more systematic than I am. I'm horrible at following checklist stuff. I'm just so off the cuff, improvisational. But when something really affects me and I really learn from somebody, I try to take a minute after it and even just tag them on LinkedIn and say, here's what I learned, get excited for the episode. So I'm building that connection with them. I'm sharing out some insights and teasing that we've got more episodes in the pike. And so those are the pieces we're doing. I'm sure there's plenty more we could be doing.
Yeah, there's always more, right? The more you dig into it, the more you realize there's so much more you could be doing.
Yeah, talking about it, these are great. Where I'm just like, I should talk with Miriam. We should keep moving this along because we've already got the YouTube Shorts. Why not have them as Instagram stories and TikToks? Why not, right?
Yeah. So we're talking about like short soundbite answers. I have a question for you, and if you can do it in 60 seconds or less, I'm going to put it on our Instagram account. So. Tell us why you think podcasting is a great tool to help grow your business.
Yeah, I think podcasting is a great tool to grow your business because, one, it's fun and exciting. You're going to enjoy doing it. You're going to learn new things. You're going to meet new people, and you're going to be putting yourself out there and showing that you're an authority. You're having conversations in this space. So when you share it on social media, when you share it out to your email list and so on, people see, ooh, this person is really a thought leader, right? So it's got all these knock-on effects. If you're trying to get clients, yes, you can potentially get clients through your content, but I don't think that happens even necessarily in the first year, depending on how good your content is and how much reach you're getting. I think it's got all these other benefits where you're building your referral network. You're meeting new people and learning new things and finding out what's the latest and greatest. At some point, I learned that, all the stuff that's in books is almost stale at this point. Yeah. I love reading books. I got a huge library here next to me, but it's like the latest and greatest of what's working inside Meta ads, or Amazon or whatever you're doing. It's like, it's actual practitioners in the field, and they can have a 20-minute conversation with you and you can learn from them, they're not going to sit and write a book about it. And by the time they do, it's out of date. And so I think those are all great reasons of it's fun, it's enjoyable. You grow your network, you show your authority out there, and you learn new things.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for that. So Eagan, thanks so much for being on the show and sharing your journey. I feel like there's so much insight that you've given us that is going to be helpful for our listeners to be able to implement and help their own podcasts to grow and then grow their business. So thank you so much for sharing that today and for bringing such value to PodJunction.